Yo, I was raised by alchemists on the block. Magic was practiced on the daily. I seen the laws of science bend to a collective will, found pockets of love in the most unexpected places. I've even seen the alchemist's opus of turning nothing into gold. Countless hip-hop songs talk about this magic. Jay-Z says, "This ain't a tall order, this is nothing to me. Difficult takes a day, impossible takes a week." Lupe Fiasco says, "I backflipped on the mattresses they slept on me on." And Tupac's lyrics from Dear Mama share, "You were just working with the scraps given, and Mama made miracles every Thanksgiving." Songs go on and on like Erykah Badu, proving that there are communities where active alchemists exist. But rather than share songs, I'd rather share stories. I was raised by my mama and my two sisters in a 2-bedroom project building in Brownsville, Brooklyn. Brownsville has the highest concentration of low-income public housing in the nation, along with being one of the toughest cities in New York City. It also had a notorious battle with poverty. Two issues the 1980s drug epidemic only magnified. Though the environment was harsh and resources scarce, Brownsville provided me with stories that attest to the magic on the corners. I'd like to share 3 stories that I carry and that guide me personally and professionally. And of course, the first one's gonna be about my mama, all right? Yo, straight up, I hate sharing food. What's on my plate is my plate. What's on your plate is yours. No, you can't have any. I would gladly buy you your own meal, then give you some of mine. So I suggest if you want the chicken, get the chicken. Anyone that has ever broken bread with me comes to ask, yo, why are you like this? My earliest related memory was a bus trip that I took with my mama to go visit my grandma after my father passed away. It was a long trip. I don't remember the details. I don't remember getting on. I don't remember the view. I don't remember the people. I don't even remember if my sisters were with me. But what I do remember is the rest stops. This is where the bus driver would pull us over, let passengers out to stretch their legs, go to the bathroom, grab something to eat. I remember my mama buying me a sandwich with some chips. She'd find a table in the cafeteria, and she would set me up to enjoy my meal. This is when the unthinkable happened. She started stealing some of my chips. Then the unbelievable followed. She went in for a bite of my Sammy. My 3-year-old self had never been this violated before in my life. I mean, the gall of my mama touching my food. It was only when I became an adult myself and a father, and after many sessions with my therapist, that I come to realize my mom picked because at that time she couldn't afford 2 meals. And this is when I saw the power of uncanny sacrifice. In my career, I've had many a time having a hand in developing programs. I've been on committees where I see the same look my mama had on board members when they see that their organization's incomes don't match their outcomes and decisions are about to be made. As an executive director, I adopted an organization that was $250,000 in the hole with payroll right around the corner. And just to survive, I had to get extremely creative and cut every cost possible. Each one of these decisions come with so much doubt, so much second guessing, so many sleepless nights. But that's when I get it together and I realized what my mama did. I was just putting the organization on chips so it could survive and buy its own meals later. And this is how I use the power of uncanny sacrifice. My second story is about my sister. She's not gonna like this. Just being 8 years apart, my sister was more like a second mom. We shared a bedroom for most of my childhood about the size of the stage, maybe even less. I always looked up to my sister. I wasn't down with some of her fashion choices in the 80s and 90s. But even with the dyed jeans, the leg warmers, the denim jackets, the Madonna haircut, she was always a source of unconditional love. Like countless annoying little brothers, I spent many a day hanging at her coattails. I'd bother her when she got home from school. I'd bother her when she was with her friends. I'd bother her when she locked the door and told me to respect her personal space, and I didn't. And then there were special occasions where she was forced to take me to her job, and I had the honor of bothering her in her office. I mean, I got excited when this happened. Not only Was I gracing her with my presence? But we also have to travel to the far-off land of Manhattan. To do this, we had to cross all of Brownsville, walk through many project buildings, go in front of a bunch of bodegas, and go through many empty lots, all to catch a 3 train. On one of these trips, I witnessed my sister's control of magic. While walking to the train, she urgently grabbed my hand and said we were crossing the street. In a panic, we crossed, and we slipped into a small bodega. After waiting a couple minutes, we walked back outside and continued our trip. While on the ride, I was like, yo, why we cross the street like that? She said, I gave a hello to someone that was on the sidewalk with us, and their response back gave me a bad feeling in my stomach. You should always, always trust that gut feeling. When we got off the train, got to our office, my sister readied her smile, and she shook off all the bad feelings. But she also shook off the sister I knew my entire life. I mean, my sister was lovely to be around, but when she got into that office, she was lovelier. She started using big words I never heard before. Her sentences didn't start in English, transition to Spanish. Her body language changed. She even got rid of her Brooklyn accent. I was shocked. Here's the same girl from the same streets of Brownsville, Brooklyn, who I share a bedroom with, and she was unrecognizable. I was baffled. I was even more baffled when she got back on the train and she transitioned right back to the sister like nothing ever happened. Again, as I got older, started my own career, and yeah, the sessions with my therapist continued, okay? I come to realize my sister was a master of multiple Englishes, a term from poet and professor from St. Francis University, Jai Poetic, that teaches language is dictated from culture. From crossing the street to talking to her coworkers, my sister was being her most authentic self while shifting how she talked by reading her environment and her audience. I think about this magic when I'm connecting with my coworkers and we're trying to talk about our to-do list for the day. Then when I skip out and take a break and go play basketball with the young people in our organization and we get into a heated debate over who's the hottest MC out right now. Jay-Z. When I go back to the office and I have a board meeting to do our next upcoming strategic plan. And then when I leave the office to meet with a funder to gauge interest, both verbally and non-verbally, in a project in the pipeline. Each group gets the most authentic version of me, but like my sister, I switch out the language to fit my audience and my environment. And this is how I use the magic of multiple Englishes. If you haven't figured it out yet, hip-hop is one of my favorite languages. Jay-Z has this line that goes, huddling over the oven, we was like brothers then, though you were nothing other than the son of my mother's friend. That was nasty. My third and final lesson was talk to me on my daily walks to school, knowing I had a 65% chance of getting into a fight, and praying that I did, it would only involve fisticuffs. Conflict and guns equal nothing good. I had friends who dropped flat on the floor for anything louder than a firework. I had a neighbor who was a gang member who took pride in being shot. Facts, I knew people that took their school yearbook just so they could write RIP on the pictures of classmates who passed away. So my chip-stealing mama and my annoyed sister, way too obsessed with her personal space, knew that something had to be done. So in came friend turned family, Titi Edith, the mom to my best friend, Ben. DTE and my mom knew that they were raising young men who were the target population for gang violence and activity. So to combat this, they would meet and they invite other mamas over to create systems and share resources. Together, they became the League of Extraordinary Mamas. As a collective, they became the prototype for the Citizens Act, sharing safety updates from block to block. Each of their apartments became safe spaces with protocol to call back home once we arrived safely. They pulled their collective knowledge of free services that overprogrammed us and provided free services. So Ben and I, we became brothers because we went to school together. Then after school, we go to the police athletic league together. Then we go to art workshops together. Then we go to church together. Then we go to each other's house and we huddle over the oven. I didn't need to be an adult then to understand this alchemy. I knew right there I was watching spellcasters turn one mom into two and build bonds between brothers regardless of blood. Our mamas acknowledged the environment and their collective will bent it. They didn't like the projected outcome and overcame expectations with just resolve. And they performed the alchemist's signature of turning nothing into gold, turning strangers into family. I think about the mamas out here when I'm networking with these organizations, where we're trying to do our part to build action plans to keep our young people safe and engaged. When I invite colleagues over for dinner just so we can figure out and brainstorm ideas to bring our missions closer. And I definitely think about the mamas when I'm at community meetings and I see the determination on the face of parents to demand we do more for their neighborhoods. These experiences, their practitioners, along with the hugs and unconditional love, have become the armor I leave my house with every day. I'm college educated, but I was homeschooled in project buildings. And it taught me that places like Inglewood, Back of the Yards, Lawndale, Gage Park, Austin, Little Village, and my home of Brownsville, Brooklyn, all have magic on their corners. Now, in no way am I trying to romanticize communities that are in desperate need of resources. Black and brown communities all over are constantly overlooked and are in need of support. Today, the South and West Side of Chicago are still in a battle with a dual pandemic, and yet we've only invested in vaccines for one. These challenges shouldn't be overlooked. The injustices that exist in underserved communities shouldn't be overlooked. The obstacles that hinder well-being should never be ignored. But as a product of these communities, I equally believe the beauty found there shouldn't be overlooked. The stories of their corners shouldn't be overlooked. And the current alchemists, disguised as parents, armed with the power of uncanny sacrifice, siblings who master the magic of multiple Englishes, and strangers who come together to forge families, should never be ignored. Yo, I was raised by alchemists, and I bet you were too. Thank you.